Good evening. I'm Father Tom. I'm the priest in charge at Trinity, and it's our delight to welcome all of you here again for the third in this series, Living Wisely and Well. So we're quite excited to find out what we're going to learn, all the useful things we're going to learn as we have the last 2 weeks. So with that, I'll turn it over to Margaret.
So we want to welcome tonight's presenters, welcome everyone here, and welcome to our live stream audience. We had, I noticed today, over 50 views of the presentation 2 weeks ago, and it seems over 25 for last week, and it builds up as time goes on. So we have a larger audience than we realize in the room. So we're very happy to we want to thank Trinity Church for inviting us to gather in this beautiful space and for allowing us to use their live stream channel. And we especially want to thank Angela Ruggiero, who has volunteered her time, not only for these 3 sessions, but also last year as well. So thank you, Angela, very much. So Living Wisely and Well has been offering presentations for about the last 5 years. And if you would like to be tuned in to what's coming up, you're welcome to sign up for our email here at the back of the church on the stand in the entranceway. Or if you're online, if you're doing live stream, you can go to our website and find the email sign up on the homepage there. So we'd welcome you to our little community. Finally, we want to thank Tyler Bound tonight. Tyler is the Sustainability and Compliance Manager for the town of Brantford, and we are so happy to have been able to collaborate with him on this series. He's been a big player in helping us come up with ideas and making connections, and we really appreciate that. We first worked together last spring when we were involved in organizing the process of the Earth Day Fair, when he was very new in town. And it was a joy to work with him both then and for this series. So now I'm going to turn it over to Tyler, and he'll be our moderator and introduce our panelists.
Hi, everyone. To echo again, thank you for coming. Thank you to those that are watching from home. We're in for an exciting and insightful discussion this evening on the topic of food waste. So I hope that's why you're here, and we're going to talk about food waste. We've got a fantastic panel with us today, each with their own unique perspective and experiences in the world of food waste. First, we have Sharon Hutner, Turtle Bay's Sustainability Chair, who has taken the lead in focusing on food waste and composting at the condo complex where she lives, showing how we can make a big difference in our own neighborhoods. Next, we have Judy Barron, who is the Executive Director of the Brantford Community Dining Room, who has the challenge of feeding many while also dealing with food waste. Our third panelist is Maria DeSarbo, Vice President of the wholesaler business, Carbonella and DeSarbo, who will be able to provide a unique look into food waste in the supply chain. And lastly, we have Carolyn Russell, the Senior Director of Food Strategy and Procurement with Connecticut Food Share, a nonprofit organization doing incredible work to get food to those in need within our home state. Our panelists are here to share their experiences, challenges, and visions for a less wasteful future. We will be hearing from each panelist individually to start, then we'll have an open discussion after all panelists have the chance to speak. So please hold your questions until after all presentations are complete. The panelists will be presenting in the order that they were introduced, so please give a warm welcome to our first panelist, Sharon Hutner. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So I would like to introduce you to Turtle Bay first so that you have a sense of what our community is like. So Turtle Bay is a condominium development that was originally started in the 1970s, and through 4 different phases, it expanded to about 180 condo units. And this is the way that one real estate website describes Turtle Bay. Year-round resort lifestyle by the water at Turtle Bay condominiums. Enjoy spectacular water views every day, overlooking Double Beach and Brantford Harbor. The Turtle Bay community includes beautifully maintained park-like grounds, heated pool, beach area, community clubhouse, tennis courts, pickleball, and is a social community with seasonal events and easy access to I-95 and trains. So you can hear what a paradise it sounds like to live in. And so one of the goals is to keep it being a paradise and to make sure that we can protect that kind of environment. So we're very lucky that Turtle Bay is very well run. We have a number of qualified members who live in our community who volunteer their time to serve on the board. And it's really a thankless job, but we really are very lucky to have people who care. So our management company is Imagineers, and our garbage company is Schweitzer Company, and they come and pick up our garbage twice a week and pick up our recycling once a week. We are not part of the town's garbage collection, which will be an important point later. And we did not get the new recycling bins, and we don't have single stream recycling. So we contract out for our own garbage pickup. So how did this whole thing get started? So it started, I'm a member of the Clean Energy Committee in Brantford, and Bill Horn, one of our former members, was very instrumental in spreading the word about Blue Earth Compost, which is a company that collects food wastes from homes and businesses and then transports it to the Quantum Factory. Is that what it's called, Bill? Thank you. Quantum Biopower, which then turns it into electricity. And so because he was very instrumental in getting Blue Earth to come to Brantford, I was exposed to it. So if you want more information about Blue Earth, you can look up blueearthcompost.com. But make sure you include compost, because otherwise you'll get information about Blue Earth, Minnesota. So after Blue Earth came to Brantford, I was able to subscribe to it as an individual. And after using Blue Earth for 1 month, I noticed an immediate, drastic decrease in the amount of garbage I put in my trash bin. I was putting my trash bin out once a week. After I subscribed to Blue Earth, they were coming once every 2 weeks to my house. And now I put my trash bin out maybe once every 2 months, maybe. And because really, if you think about it, food waste is 30 to 40% of our garbage. So it really makes a big dent. And so, granted, I'm just a family of one, but I have spoken to a number of other families who use Blue Earth, and they've noticed the decrease as well. So to continue with the history, in May 2021, Feed the Earth Brantford campaign was started, and this was started by the sustainable manager who was here at the time, and Jamie Cosgrove, our first selectman. It was a collaborative effort between the town and Blue Earth, It included free home collection service for the lucky people who lived in Short Beach, as well as placing Blue Earth barrels at our transfer station on East Main Street. So the program was a 6-month pilot that would hopefully give us data to see if in fact we were saving money and having less garbage. So as a result of that study, the barrels have remained at the transfer station. We have 5 barrels at our transfer station, but unfortunately the people in Short Beach now have to pay for their Blue Earth service. So after the barrels were installed, I stopped my subscription to Blue Earth, and I started taking my food waste to the transfer station. And it was suggested to me, actually by Margaret, that it might be a good idea to have a Blue Earth barrel at Turtle Bay. So I said, I think that is a good idea. So I talked to my committee, and we originally presented the idea to our board in November 2022. And at that time, the board said, wow, that's a great idea, but the state was giving out grants to towns for food waste pickup. And as a matter of fact, Guilford and Madison have gotten a grant in that series. And so the board said, why are we going to pay for this if the town is just going to come in and have their own waste program? And so they said, let's wait. And this is where I forgot that we don't participate in the town's garbage pickup. So that was my error. But anyway, we did. So we postponed it, and we waited to see what would happen. And of course, the state did not fund the grants in 2024. So we were back to square one. So I am now in the process of presenting this proposal to a new board, which had an enormous amount of questions, unlike the old board. So I'm in the process of answering all those questions for them, and I'll tell you about that in a bit. But what we wanted to do was we wanted to put 1 barrel near our clubhouse. We have an outside staircase by our clubhouse that has like a sidewalk and a parking lot in front of it. And Sam King, who is the president of Blue Earth, came and did a site visit with me, which was really very helpful. And so he said that this would be the best place to put the garbage barrel because the driver has to have access to be able to pull up the truck and get out and be able to get to the barrel. So some of the questions that the board has was, well, is there any other condo that has this program, and what's their feedback? And luckily, there is one other condo that Sam was able to tell me about in the state. It's called Woodland Condos, and it's in Hartford on Woodland Street. And they're an apartment building. And they have a really large garage. And they have their Blue Earth barrel in the garage right near like their compactor room. And so it really is very contained. Because one of the questions that the board had for me was, well, what about the critters? And, will animals get into the barrel? And Sam said, well, just get these clamps that you can put on the top. So we're hoping that when and if that starts, we won't have that problem. We'll deal with it when it happens. So another thing that happened was that our insurance went up astronomically because we're a shoreline community, and there's absolutely no room in the budget for even $2 more to spend. So we're again postponing the presentation till January because that's when our budgets are composed. And so we'll talk to the finance people and talk about how we can get it included in the budget. Another question that they asked was exactly how many people were interested. And I only knew about 10 or 12, and so I thought that that was a really good question. And so what we're going to be doing is in November, we're going to have a meet and greet for the Sustainable Committee and talk about all the other initiatives that we have at Turtle Bay, which includes wanting to plant native plants, leaving the leaves, and now this food waste, and see if we can get more people who might be interested so we can have more names for the board. So that's some of the other questions that the board had to do with some of the specifics in the contract that Blue Earth sent to us. So things like cancellation fees and contamination fees, and they wanted those things clarified. So those things will be clarified. So the most important thing that I learned through this whole process is to definitely do my research and definitely have better communication between the board and the committee and the community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Next, we have Judy Barron.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks so much to Trinity Church for hosting these really great informative seminars. We're really happy to be a part of it. Again, my name is Judith Barron. I'm the Executive Director for the Community Dining Room located here in Branford. I have been with the organization since 2016, but the organization itself has been in Branford for about 37, 38 years now, feeding the entire shoreline area and our neighbors in need, and we're very proud to be able to do that with the support of all of the towns on the shoreline. So for us, food waste has become a major component, and our attention is there in making sure that we are going to continue to do a good job. And we began in 2019, and we were approached by a community member who I feel like should be on the panel with us tonight, and we're going to mention him, probably almost all of us, Bill Horn. And he presented the idea to our organization about composting. And that is something near and dear to our organization and making sure that we're taking good care of our community. And so together we rallied and we began to rally for funding to begin a project and a relationship with Blue Earth Composting. They're phenomenal to work with. I think we'll all agree to that this evening. And so to start off, what we began to do was we worked with Two Owls, a sustainability company in Branford, and we did a sustainability audit to see where we were, how were we doing so far, what could we do better, and how did it look. So we began with a diversion rate in 2019 of 55%. Not bad, but obviously we could do a lot better than that, but 55% was a good start. So Bill rallied for us in the community, got our relationship going, and we started to educate ourselves on what we needed to do. And we began to create some goals so that we could increase our rate in time. And we stayed true to our composting rituals, we'll call them, within the organization. So we developed recycling and composting signs in our kitchen to inform our staff and volunteers of what could and couldn't be recycled and composted. We began to educate our volunteers in their training that this was something that we did within our organization and how they can continue to do that with us. And we reached out to our local composting partners so that we could add additional prep days so that we can compost every single day versus, well, we'll skip it on the weekends, and make sure that that was happening consistently within our organization. Because food waste that we would have is every single day. So you want to make sure that you're continuing to pay attention to those waste products that are coming in and make sure that we're handling those appropriately. So today, in 2023, we have a diversion rate of 95.2%. So we have worked really hard at that and are really proud of that number. The diversion rate is defined as the amount of materials diverted from a landfill by means of recycling and composting, or through other outfits such as donation and recovery, so that we know what that means. We're very proud of that rate altogether, and we will maintain. And today, they say that any entity that diverts over 90% of its waste from a landfill is defined as zero waste. So the community dining room is a zero waste with regards to what our diversion rate is, and we're really proud of that. So I think all in all, what we've learned in the relationship, not only just with the community dining room itself, but with our community partners such as the high school and teaching the students and the children how important this is for us, that Brantford has made a very good start of diverting food waste altogether. And with both curbside pickup and drop-off for residential materials, such as Turtle Bay, and we continue to keep sending that food waste to Blue Earth, and we get these wonderful reports from them that tell us how much and what we've done and what we've produced with them. So this is our 2022 report, 63,625 pounds of waste that we were able to send over. And it gives you kind of a little breakdown of the mitigating CO2 emissions equivalent to 1.97 million smartphones charged, or 40.5 thousand miles driven by an average car, or 267 seedlings planted. All of those components to us make the work that we're doing worth it every single day. And we can't be more excited to continue with our community partners. We're a nonprofit, so everybody says, how do you fund this, and how do you manage to be able to continue to do that with a limited budget? Well, community partners and donors such as Bellhorn and other members that have a strong passion for composting are always helping us be able to keep this going. But as we explore more in our relationships with the state, we were thankful to be able to rally and raise funds for the first few years, but now we most recently entered into a campaign with Connecticut Sustainability, and we were able to do a match program that allows us to continue and expand on these services as well as education in the community. So that's an important component for us. Blue Earth has been very kind to us on that limited budget and always helps us to reduce costs where we can. So we're not only just doing the actual waste management within the organization, but we're making sure that we're paying attention to educating the youth in the community as what they can do to continue to help us, and maybe that will trickle into their own homes as well. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Oh, sorry, let me speak into this. My name's Maria DeSarbo. I'm with Carbonella and DeSarbo. We're a wholesale fruit and produce distributor right in town in Brantford. We've been here for about 5 years. And at first, I just have to say thank you for being here. I've already learned so much from everyone sitting next to me. We've made some great connections in the short time that we've been here. So I guess my perspective is a little bit different, being part of a for-profit entity that deals strictly in fresh food. We're selling fruit and produce, and as you all know, this isn't manufactured. It's subject to Mother Nature's whims, whatever those may be. We all saw all the rain. I've had to contend with that for the last summer. But we'll receive product in volume. We're selling to, we focus on the food service sector, so nothing to do with chain stores. It's all restaurants, institutions, schools, nursing homes, and this product will be chopped up. It'll be cooked. It's not at a grocery store where consumers are looking at it. And really, checking to make sure everything looks perfect. But that being said, we have to have a certain grade of produce that can go out to a customer. People still expect quality is there. And with the volume that we're taking in, we're servicing big distributors as far north as Maine and into New Jersey and all throughout New England. So our outputs are pretty great. And I'll say this from a very pragmatic perspective, waste is incredibly expensive. If you just pay the town fee, whatever it is, for trash removal, you might not understand just how expensive it is. This equates to tens of thousands of dollars for our business at the end of the year, possibly approaching 6 figures. This is money that could be spent employing people and putting money back into the community. We too partnered with Blue Earth Compost, and we've experienced great reduction in cost, and we'll still look to further make this program efficient. Blue Earth sends us the same reports that Judy was explaining. Our output for the month of September was 42,000 pounds of produce. So what we try to do with food waste to begin with is always, before it goes into a compost cube, is to get it into the hands of people in the community. I was really, really excited to connect with Judy. Being in Brantford, we've never met before. I have plenty of stuff that we're going to send her way sooner rather than later. It's really great. So there's a lot that can be done there, but sometimes logistically it's complicated. nonprofits don't always have a vehicle, and we don't always have a vehicle to get to them. If the timing doesn't jive, unfortunately, we have to do something as the product degrades. And so with that, we always try to donate, but we still, unfortunately, have to throw things away. And what I would do, thinking of other organizations who want to make this leap of faith and sort of do it, it really was an entire operational shift for us. It turned out a lot better. There's savings involved, there's efficiencies. I don't have people carrying heavy trash cans across a warehouse. Blue Earth has these plastic cubes that fit perfectly on a pallet. It's the size of a pallet and it's mobile throughout the warehouse. So, if you have friends who have businesses, please let them know about this. It's been a great morale booster. We post the posters that they send us throughout the warehouse so the employees feel like they're participating in something that's really good for the earth. So you have the cost savings from a business standpoint, but you also do have a social responsibility when you're in the community and you have to do what's right. What was great about this is that doing what was right coincided with benefits to the business and the community as well. People ask, we laugh in the office, really. Being in this space, there's something that I always want to be able to tell the general public. I shop at Big Y in town, and I see people all the time. They pick up their produce and they're analyzing it. I'm going to have a party tonight and I want to have the perfect tomato, and I see people, they're always analyzing tomatoes closely. Be forgiving. Buy the produce that's ugly at the store. All you're doing is raising your own costs, because the more that the store has to throw away, the more they're going to charge for the produce. You're chopping it up, you're cooking it, you're going to be fine. Buy the ugly stuff. That's just a side note. But yeah, I think that the most important thing that I've learned is that sustainable solutions can lead to great camaraderie. It can lead to community connection. The cost savings are great, but it does do more for morale in that regard. So I look forward to learning more.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Russell from Connecticut Food Share, and we actually partner with Judy. They're one of our partner agencies, so we're very appreciative. And I'm very happy to be here and talk a little bit about what we do. We have a little bit of a different perspective from everybody else on the panel in that, Judy is preparing food every single day, and they're utilizing all of that produce that's coming in. Carbonell and DeSarbo actually has donated to us in the past as well, so we appreciate you very much. We're always happy to hear that you're donating to agencies. One of the things that we are looking at in our own facility is a lot of the product that we get in is on its last leg. We deal with a lot of fresh produce, and it is on its last leg a lot of times when we get it. And so part of our program is to sort through that product and salvage absolutely everything we can. So we have thousands of volunteers that come in and sort through produce so that we are able to provide produce to the partner agencies that we're serving. So we're able to put produce that is shorter shelf life that could potentially end up in a landfill or in the waste stream, and get that on our mobile pantry trucks and get that out to people that need that food. And again, it is the non-perfect food a lot of times. It's the ugly fruit. It's the oranges that have a little bit of sunburn. It's potatoes that are a little small, or sweet potatoes that are a little large. We get all the really odd items. We do still produce waste. With everything that we do to minimize that, we do still produce waste. We move about 50 million pounds, of food every year, and it's a huge amount of food. We have approximately 3% waste. And within that 3%, we deal directly with Quantum, so we are sending trucks of fresh produce that is not usable to Quantum for biofuel. We also work with a pig farm who comes and picks up product from us. So we are also helping that farmer provide food for their livestock. So, we're trying to get as much food into people, or pigs in this case, to make sure that it's getting consumed, anything that we possibly can. And I actually just today was at UConn for some presentations from some students who are doing a waste analysis for us. So even with everything that we're doing, we are still looking at what can we do better, what can we do to even minimize more of the waste that we're putting out there. So it'll be interesting to see where the students land, and they had some very interesting ideas already, just midway through their projects. But that's one of the things that we're doing, is we're working with people that spend their life crunching numbers and looking at data and analyzing things, and they are looking at everything that we do across the board and coming back to us with recommendations on ways that we can further reduce waste. One of the things that we are able to do as well, and Judy's program actually takes part in this, is the retail rescue program, where we get donated food directly from grocery stores. And if we pick up that food with our Connecticut Food Share trucks and we bring it to our warehouse and we put it online, it's going to be 4 or 5 days before it's going to go anywhere, and some of it is going to be lost. And so what we do instead is partner with our community partners, and they are going and picking that food up directly. So Judy's picking up food directly at a grocery store, taking it back and literally using it in the meal today or tomorrow. And so that food could potentially have been wasted if we weren't able to make that connection for them. So it really is a collaborative effort on the part of, Connecticut Food Share and the 600 plus community partners that we work with across the state, in really trying to make sure that we are utilizing every ounce of food that we possibly can. And if we can't, we want it to go to the pig farm, we want it to go to Quantum, we don't want it to go to the landfill. So that's kind of the short version of what we're doing.
Thank you to all of our panelists for those insightful overviews. We will now be able to take questions for any and all of the panelists. To get the conversation started, I'll propose the first question. I think looking at food waste, it's almost always a very messy job that many people don't want to get into. So for anyone on the panel, what motivated you to get into looking at food waste?
Feeding people. Yeah, just feeding people. I hate to see food going to waste, and I know that there's people that are in need. The job that I have, I am the food sourcing person, so I am trying to bring in as much food as possible, and I don't want to see any of that food that my team has spent, hours trying to facilitate to get donated. I don't want to see any of it get wasted. We want it to go to the people that need it, and there is such a great need. That really is what motivates me, and that motivates our volunteers. When I left the office today, we had about 30 volunteers sorting through about 10 pallets of fresh produce that came in today. And out of that, about 95% of it will end up going out to our agencies or on the mobile truck tomorrow. And that smaller portion will be on that pig farm truck on Friday morning when they come to pick up whatever's left. So,
Thank you.
I think it was the dramatic reduction in the amount of trash that I threw away in my bin. I just could not get over how little garbage I actually had that was going to go into the landfill. And so I think that you just magnify that by the number of people who live in our town and how much the town could be saving on fees for solid waste. It's just, it just seems like a no-brainer.
I have to speak to the level, I guess this parlays off of the grocery store example I was giving you, but the level of fear people live in over with best if used by dates. To speak to Cheryl's point, if it's a best if used by date, you have to still observe the product. I've seen certain times of year, if the growing conditions are right, we'll have school systems, they refuse chopped romaine lettuce. It's like a 20-pound case of perfectly good lettuce that will sometimes last 2 weeks after the best if used by date. So everyone has to relax because we can actually do something with this product that other people who can't relax can't use. We can feed a lot of people, and I have to echo that sentiment.
Are we all taking a turn? Sure. I mimic what the rest of the panel pretty much commented on. And I will add to not only just the ability to be able to utilize every product that we get to feed our neighbors in need, which is the mission of the community dining room to accomplish, but to also be able to take that component and educate the future of our youth in town and be able to teach them to continue to do this. It's not only just about feeding our neighbors in need, but taking care of our community as a whole and to have it be here in good health, right? And be able to make sure that they learn that as they move forward, and they'll continue to educate their children and so on and so on. So for us, it gives us a great opportunity to give an educational component and continue to do good work with our community partners on it.
So you all see benefits from food waste reduction within your specific area. Do you have any comments or kind of insight into what the challenges are now that you have or are looking into implementing this in your industry? I mean, I know it's great to do it, but the day-to-day still has to happen. Do you see challenges from the day-to-day?
Yes. So what attracts, when you have food waste, what is going to be attractive outside? Who's coming for that food waste outside? Animals and rodents, right? So you want to make sure that it's a bigger project than just being able to do the actual, composting of the food and how you're going to get there. We're very thankful to the town and working with us and helping us secure kind of the areas outside. You're not always going to get all those little scurry furry creatures to go away from it, but you really have to put some thought into how you're going to create that atmosphere outside to make sure that it's safe for all. So there's hurdles along the way, and you have to work together on that and trial and error and come up with the best ways possible to make sure that we can stay clean to that.
I would say one of the biggest challenges is the logistics of getting food that we have into someone's hands who can use it before, well, it's kind of teetering on that. Maybe somebody wouldn't scoop this up and think that it's great, but if you're cooking with it, it's completely acceptable and you can make something really nutritious and tasty. So logistically, I'm sure there are days where you don't necessarily have a vehicle that can go pick up. I might not have a driver and a truck to get the product to somebody. So that's a challenge constantly.
Yeah, I think I'm going to echo that as well. I mean, we do have trucks, but we are busy all the time, so when we do have donations that come up, sometimes it is a challenge to be able to get a truck out there. And we actually do turn to our partner agencies pretty frequently for that. If there's any possible way that we can get a partner to go pick up that donation, if we can get a volunteer in a van to go pick that up, we really do try to do everything we can. But the logistics is certainly a challenge to get that food and get it to where it needs to go.
On a very minor scale, there's 180 units in Turtle Bay, and everybody has an opinion. And so you need to win the hearts and minds of the people who you live with, and that really is a challenge.
Thank you. Is there any questions at all? I'll be happy to get up and pass the mic around. Just for the viewers at home, we have to keep in mind you have to speak directly into the microphone.
I need you to help remind me. Last week, Cheryl Baldwin from Deep was here, and she told us about an app that she uses or is used that's available. Is it called Helping Hands or Harvest Help? What was it called? It's for volunteers who sign up, and you have everybody on a list, and when you need help with logistics, you reach out to the people who have signed up to help you and see who's available to pick up and drop off. And it's a volunteer program. So
Havens Harvest. Yeah, Havens Harvest.
You use that?
We do not, because we've got our own volunteers that act in that capacity, and we have our partner agencies. I know a lot of our partner agencies use Havens Harvest, and Food Rescue US is a similar organization that is volunteer run, and they are doing that exact thing. They're transporting food from the donor to the pantry or to the soup kitchen. So yeah, that's what that is.
So the community dining room does utilize Havens Harvest in a different way, though. For our dining room itself, we have over 400 rotating volunteers in the various communities that come in and participate on different levels. And Haven Harvest is a partner of ours that's actually bringing us food. So we don't necessarily utilize them to go do our pickups for us, but we do utilize them in bringing food to us that they're getting from other partner agencies on overage, which is a helpful procurement for us altogether. And the hurdle that everybody here is facing, we're trying to address that ourselves at the community dining room. We're happy that we have volunteers that can go out there, but they're not always available to do so, and we all know gas prices are up there, so that can be difficult on volunteers as well, and using their own vehicles. So we're hopeful, and we have some grant applications out there that maybe the community dining room will see some vans in the future if we get those grants, so that we can be more available to our community partners when there is a product and produce for us to go and get, and be able to have something on site and run out there and get it. But Haven's Harvest is very good to us as far as, procurements and donations. Lori Martin does a great job over there.
I actually am a volunteer for Haven's Harvest, and the way it works is they have you download the Food Rescue app, and then you receive a text. And then depending upon where they need the food to either be picked up or go, you accept the rescue. So, for example, I've picked up food at Olmo's, which is the bagel place on Trumbull Street in New Haven, and I brought it to the Parkside houses in Branford. Or I don't know how they knew that I was there, but I was in the parking lot in Orange by the Whole Foods, and I got this text, and I just happened to be there, and so I went around the back of Whole Foods, and they loaded my car so full I could barely see out of the windows, and with fresh fruit, beautiful fresh fruit, just the most lovely food. And I took it to a halfway house in New Haven near Yale New Haven Hospital, where they have men who have been released from prison and are living there now. So it's really a wonderful, wonderful program, and it really does a lot of good.
Hi, I'm Peter Otis from Guilford. We're Blue Earth customers like lots of other people, and it's because of Bill Horn and the Sipples and Ann and a whole bunch of other people who told us about it, and we finally bought into it probably 9 months ago. Your figures of thousands, hundreds of pounds, we are about 60 pounds per month is what we put into our green bucket. One clarifying question. Everything that we give them, and we got 6 bags of compost during the gardening season, but is it going into electricity or is it going into compost? Where is all that stuff going? Please.
I think Bill could
My understanding is that everything that Blue Earth picks up goes to Quantum. And so it's going into electricity, but it's also going to compost. It's not compost that we get. Blue Earth generates that on their own. Quantum is one of 3 companies and a holding company, and one of the other ones is a landscape supply one. So they take all the compost and things like that. So the food waste is going to Quantum. It's generating electricity, and there is a compost byproduct, but not what's available to us.
So another element of what happens at Quantum Biopower is, actually Cheryl mentioned this 2 sessions ago. If you kind of imagine it as a Ziploc bag, Quantum Biopower, it's actually a contained area that does anaerobic digestion. So our food scraps will go into their plastic bag in a way, but it's more intricate than that. And our food that decomposes actually creates methane and other gases. So that methane is then run through a system of pipes, essentially, and is burned to then create steam, which turns a turbine. So technically, Bill's completely correct. Both are happening. It's just a lot more intricate than your backyard compost. Yeah.
I just want to go back to your first question of sort of what got me thinking about compost. And in fact, it was the renewable energy that got me thinking about compost. The idea that we could actually capture some of that energy. I mean, I live in a nice woodsy place, and I watch the dead trees fall and rot and go away. And, you know, I know that there's energy in there that could be captured, and this is one way to capture it. And I'm also realizing the infrastructure's not there yet, but sooner or later we're going to be needing to take a lot of CO2 out of the atmosphere. And with food waste, the plants have done the hard work. And so it goes to quantum. The biogas is about 1/3 carbon dioxide, 2/3 methane, and then they burn the methane and generate CO2 from that. That could be captured and either sequestered or, better, used to synthesize aviation fuel or put into manufacturing concrete or things like that. People that use CO2 now in making soda, for example, are starting to worry about the fact that sequestering CO2 is being subsidized or incentivized, and they're worried about being able to get it. It seems to me that anaerobic digestion would be a source of concentrated CO2, which would be a lot easier to capture than what's floating around us here, and used for this. So these are the kinds of things that drew me into the whole food waste thing.
You're a celebrity in this room. Any other questions? Sure.
Since you've done such a great job of outlining what all the benefits are to the food waste management and saying it's a no-brainer, and it sounds like it is, what are so for the industries that generate a lot of food waste, restaurants, hospitals, hotels, assisted living, schools, what is the deterrence from participating, or what will motivate them to participate? Is there an easy answer, or is it complicated? Do you know?
If we're talking about businesses, it really is a no-brainer. There's cost savings without a question. A dumpster is so expensive. It would cost, well over 20 cents a pound to throw anything away. And the amount of food you'd put in there, it's really, really expensive. So from a pragmatic standpoint, just to, make more for your business, do with that what you like, offer medical benefits to your employees, come up with a 401k match, something like that, do something. But to just literally throw it away is such a waste. No pun intended, but so there's that. And I think the social component, I think people are more and more encouraged by it. I think people know more about it, thankfully, to people like you who can really drill it down to brass tacks and help us understand it. I think that should be huge. Anyone else?
I think it's just a real challenge changing people's behavior. And it really takes an enormous amount of outreach and education and repetition and repetition and repetition and repetition, so that people get the sense of why they're doing this. And then setting up the systems, I think, often are not as easy as one would think. So I think that's another obstacle to implementation.
And who is doing the outreach? Who is educating? Who is pointing out all the financial incentives?
Living wisely and well.
So for us, we had our sister company visiting. So we have a sister company up in Portland, Maine, and they were walking around and looking at our trash. And years ago, we had pursued a compost program. We met with Sam from Blue Earth, and they just didn't have the infrastructure yet to accommodate our outputs. And then our sister company said, hey, you guys really need to revisit this. It's nothing ingenious that I thought of. I always was sick to my stomach looking at the cost of our dumpsters. Again, it was grotesque. But we just gave it another go and realized that they had really beefed up their infrastructure, and they were able to accommodate what we needed. You don't look satisfied with that. What do you?
It sort of begs, if we just focus on Branford, right? So what's the process? What do we need to do to get more businesses, organizations, for-profits, for everybody, especially the major food waste producers? How do we get them on board? How do we make them aware? There needs to be some sort of organized effort, I think.
We have to make it easy and convenient, and right now, cost has to be, it can't be a factor. At least from my vantage point, what I'm seeing with the economy and consumer behavior, the costs cannot be, because for the regular household, you're paying the town for your trash pickup. So you don't necessarily need a benefit, but you can incur an extra expense. However, having Turtle Bay, you have a whole community of people, and that's what really got it going for you. So are there small entities within the town that could create their own little networks?
I just thinking about that, I would think that there's a different approach maybe from these small businesses in town or restaurants, just, in Branford alone, that we're that vehicle for them instead of implementing this bigger food waste, right? A way for them to get that product out instead of them wasting that and doing this process, they're giving it to us. So we're that component for them, and maybe the education component that we're consistently trying to get out there and letting people know, you don't have to throw that out. You can donate that to us, and we're there, and we're going to be able to utilize that 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And that perfect tomato, that might not be, you're not going to use it that week for your service, or, you're following those specific guidelines, the education component for them and what they need to utilize within a restaurant versus what we can use in a soup kitchen, will be that vehicle for them. So for us in the community dining room, we're just trying to constantly spread that word and educate those businesses that if they can't establish that for themselves, they could utilize us and establish it through us in a different way and still make that complete.
You triggered a thought in my mind. I'm glad you made that face before so we could carry this on. But I'll put on my hat as just a resident in town, and I'm spread very thin. I do not have a lot of free time. So I don't compost at home. I do it at work. I don't do it at home. Lack of bandwidth. And I think we have to look at maybe the habits. What are people's weekly habits? Where do they go every week? They go to the grocery store. They maybe go to the post office. Perhaps we make it accessible for people. There's some type of bag that you can carry it in. And, to your point where you have to sort of, let me put my work hat back on, getting people to understand. So Sam explained to us with the cubes, we'll go through maybe 12 cubes for every pickup. And these are big plastic tubs the size of a pallet, and they probably come up to, my waist. We have a lot of things like iceberg lettuce comes with plastic wrap on it. English cucumbers, the seedless ones you get at the store, they're all individually wrapped. So we have a separate cube for things that are wrapped in plastic, and Blue Earth will handle that. They'll segregate everything, whatever, so long as we keep anything in plastic wrap separate. So perhaps there's some type of bag that maybe Sam comes up with or somebody, and there's community drop sites where people are already going, Walmart. It's just an idea.
There is a program that they're starting actually in New York City where they're putting these huge bins on the sidewalk, and people can just bring their food waste and just drop them into these bins. And I thought, oh, that sounds easy. Maybe we'll do that at Turtle Bay. Well, they're like $12,000. So, it's a costly kind of system, but maybe someday we can scale it up so it'll be less expensive.
Good thing we have the finance director for the town in the building.
Despite that introduction, I'm looking at it through the neophyte lens of a homeowner who looks at composting, and I'm not composting everything that you guys are describing because I don't compost all food waste. Last night, for example, I'm not composting the salmon skin, but we would be composting any of this chopped stuff left over from the salad, coffee grounds, etc. And maybe under the theory that you can aggregate marginal gains, is that if you could convince more people to not even get it in a waste stream to begin with. And so I think there's, when you start looking at the benefits of the earth and you look at, what are you planting in your yard? How are you feeding those plants? And you sort of look at composting as a way to generate free food for those plants. I mean, a lot of what we throw out is nitrogen. And then some of the paper we throw out is carbon. You mix those two and you have a nice composting process. But if there's a way possibly where we start changing behaviors, as you talked about, and this isn't unique to recycling or food waste. This is, you could say the same thing about diet, exercise, saving for retirement, anything. It's really, how do you convince people to change habits, and how do they do it over time and aggregate those, like I said earlier, those marginal gains. I don't know if there's a way possibly to incent folks. To some extent, we did it with the rain barrels, right? There was a subsidized price for the rain barrels, but I don't know if there's a way to subsidize home composting so that folks end up composting not all of the food, and not the stuff that would go to, say, a piggery, but the stuff that can go back in the garden. And I would think that at some level, even that would have some kind of substantial benefit. But I don't really have any data on that. It's somewhat observational and anecdotal, but I just was wondering what you guys think about that.
I can say one thing about that. I've looked into a program recently, and I'm sure behind the scenes, everyone, Jim and I will be talking in the hallway about this probably tomorrow. Yeah. I'm actually not asking for money. There's a program that you can basically team up. I unfortunately forget the name of the company that we will wind up using, but you can team up with a company that is for profit, from what I understand, and they will provide a reduced price for compost bins as long as you guarantee to purchase a certain amount. So how that program, which is quite literally sitting on my desk right now that I'm looking into, would work is the company themselves will make a website for our town, and they will then post it, and we will be able to pass that website around. And once we hit the mark that we need to, that a resident, so Jim can go on there and put in an order, he ticks off, let's say the number is 55, we have to get to 55. Once we hit 55, they will reach out to us and say, would you like to ship it now that we hit the minimum amount, or do you want to keep it open? And we can continue either purchasing or send it our way. And then us at the town, myself and other departments will have to have a drop-off and pickup. And that's kind of what I've found for that. I don't know if anybody else has any home composting mentioning.
Blue Earth gives their residential customers, we get 3 50-pound bags, so 150 pounds of compost for the home garden at the end of the year.
If we ask for it.
No? Oh, yes, you go onto their website and you just order it, but it's there. It's already allocated to you. And if I don't utilize the service, if I don't need it twice a month, each time I don't use it, I get a credit on my account, and that credit goes towards if I want to buy further compost, I can, and I can use my credits from not utilizing the service to buy that extra compost. So I do it all.
I'm just super impressed this evening hearing what I really didn't know very much about at all, which is people getting food that would otherwise go to waste and getting it to people who don't have enough food. It strikes me as you talk about this that it really has a moral dimension, is a moral matter. And as somebody who spent most of my career in schools, I would love it if somewhere probably around second or third or fourth grade, there was a curricular unit on this subject, because I think that children are really likely to see the connection, to understand what's going on. I think they would really get it. And it would be an easy sell, and one which children could then carry home and help mom and dad understand the moral dimensions of, not to mention practical dimensions of this. So thanks to those of you that are doing this work. It's wonderful to hear about it. I just, as I sat here, I just hope that the other 49 states have people like you doing the same thing for them. It's great. Thanks so much.
I think one question that I'm definitely thinking about is, where do you see, in the process that you all oversee or are looking into, where do you see the most food waste be created?
I will say bad weather brings on a lot of food waste. You could receive something, it looks great, and within 48 hours, I mean, we'll say it blows up. Like there's just liquid coming out of everything, and that creates a lot of mess. So bad weather.
I never thought of that.
My life is literally run by the weather. It's good.
Is that bad weather when it's being grown, or is that bad weather when it gets to you?
It could be when it's grown. It could be when it's just planted and, you know, in its gestation period, but typically just prior to harvest or any duration of its growth cycle.
Yeah, just to kind of illustrate that point a little bit, one of the farmers that donates to Connecticut Food Share lost about 85% of their acreage because of the rain. And so, you know, that was product that they had planted, they were expecting to harvest, they were expecting to be able to sell to their customers, and they now do not have that. And so it doesn't just impact their, you know, the food that's available, it's impacting this farmer's livelihood now as well. So the weather does play a huge, huge part in it. And we see that on some of the products that we're getting donated because of that, you know, because they're looking perfect when they get to the Whole Foods distribution center, for example, and then 2 days later, all of a sudden they don't look that great, and Whole Foods is very particular about what they sell, which is why they are donating. But, you know, they will then call us and say, hey, we've got 16 pallets of broccoli, or we've got, you know, apples for you, or whatever that is. They don't look perfect. They need to be used pretty quickly, but we can't ship them to our stores. And so the weather really is a huge, huge piece of it.
Another piece, I'm really glad you asked that question. A lot of it, and I don't mean this to be rude, but in the general sense, is a lack of common sense and a lack of connecting the dots and being overly cautious about what we buy and our expectations of food. I think compliance is good. Having standards is really important. We have very high level of food safety in our company, but common sense is lost. And in that regard, I think somehow we've got to swing the pendulum a little bit in a direction that makes sense for everything, the economy, supply chains, expectations. I hope that didn't sound rude. I mean it just in a pragmatic.
Any questions?
The restaurants that are donating food they can't use to you, are they still experiencing food waste on their site, and do you have knowledge of what happens to that food?
I'm going to go in an assumption that they still will have an amount of food waste. But no, we don't have knowledge directly. We don't necessarily, I don't want to interfere per se in their operations or their setup. We're thankful that they utilize us as a vehicle, and that's a start. And we're always offering educational components to, you know, give some tidbits of information on what we can take so that they know. And so we can minimize that. But I'm going to assume that every restaurant is going to have some sort of food waste overall still, regardless of the fact of still being able to give those procurements. It'll still be there. But I don't know the exact statistic on it.
Yeah, one of the things that, and Judy kind of alluded to this, letting restaurants know what they can take. they're going to have food waste, because if you go to the restaurant and you don't finish your meal and you don't take it home, that can't be donated. So, there's food safety guidelines and there's restrictions on what they're allowed to donate. So they will still have waste. Some of them do composting. I know some of the restaurants that we have in East Hampton, where I live, they are composting. Not everybody, but I know that some of them are doing that. So I think there's a little bit of that, and I think it's, again, that education piece and encouraging people and getting them to understand what the options are for what they're generating as waste, and how they can maybe minimize that and keep it out of the landfills.
And just a comment, I know that as careful as we are at home, we have stuff to send to Blue Earth. There's scraps and bones and all sorts of other stuff that, we've made use of everything we're going to eat, that we could eat, but we still have stuff to send out as waste. So there are sort of two things we're talking about here.
Hi, it's just a comment. I wonder what Blue Earth does on their marketing. That way? Better? I just was wondering if Blue Earth, what their marketing skills were like, if they're out there hitting the restaurants and things.
Sure. The question was, how does Blue Earth market themselves, and do you think Blue Earth gets their company to a lot of restaurants and things like that?
I can't answer that question, but I really love your idea of the school systems. Maybe somebody here, if anyone has access to someone in town that could promote that. I have 2 nephews that go to school in town, and when we first got those compost cubes, I had them come and help us. We were throwing oranges or strawberries in there, and they thought it was the greatest experience ever. And we could use it as a teachable moment. Perhaps we could be the ones to market that. If anyone has public or municipal connections, which it sounds like they exist in this room.
Yes, so Blue Earth was at our Earth Day Fair. I imagine they'll be at our next Earth Day Fair as well. Anybody have any questions?
I have a very practical question. Are there special challenges to housing compostable materials that you're sequestering for Blue Earth that you wouldn't have if the compost were mixed with regular garbage? Like, furry creatures get into garbage a lot already after the compostables. I didn't know if there was like liquid you needed to contain or...
Just the separation of the containers themselves, it's not necessarily a hurdle or an obstacle for us. It's just something that we educate on ourselves in that separation. But if it were together versus apart, critters are critters. So for us in an outdoor component, we would face it either way.
We actually leave some of the product in our cooler. So we have a section in our cooler where we segregate product that will either go to the pig farm or go to Quantum for biofuel. So we're keeping it in refrigeration, we're keeping it inside the building in a segregated area so that we don't run into those issues.
I have a question actually directly for Maria. So for a wholesaler business, there's plenty of wholesaler businesses across the U.S. and all over the world. Is there an industry standard for dealing with food waste? Has that hit that business sector, or is it just up to the owner themselves?
It's up to the owner to a certain extent. Food safety guidelines have gotten more and more strict, and there's more frequent audits and more people coming in to check, which that needs to exist. I'll be the first person to say that absolutely is vital. But it is up to the individual owners, and it's one of those things you have to figure it out on your own. And then what happens as your organization gets larger and more complex, you have to delegate tasks to people. So perhaps the person who's responsible for that isn't as dialed into what does this mean for the organization. It's just, oh, well, we threw everything out. Let me sign this bill and let's keep moving on. So it's got to be a decision that's made from someone who really feels passionately about it.
All right. Thank you to the panelists. That was great. Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you everyone for coming. That is now the final third session of this series. Feels like we were just planning it yesterday, but now it's over. I don't know if, Margaret, do you have anything specific you would like to say?